Deep inside the forest of northeast India, loud, shrill songs ring out unannounced. It belongs to the western hoolock gibbons, India's only ape species. About 3 feet tall and found only in northeast India, scientists now fear their population may be declining quietly towards extinction. Hello and welcome to The Print. My name is Soumya Pillai and I'm here with the details of a unique conservation program initiated in the forests of Northeast India, one to save these primates. The project is being spearheaded by an NCR-based conservation NGO, the Habitats Trust, and they are using AI, machine learning and genetic studies to save India's hoolock gibbons. Listen in as Rishikesh Chavan, the director of THT, explains how researchers are working to save these elusive species. Thank you so much, Mr. Chavan, for joining us today. I'll be jumping right to the questions, but before we get into more about this conservation project, if you could just get our viewers started on what exactly is this conservation project that the Habitat Trust has started to conserve the western hoolock gibbons.
Yeah, hi Soumya. Thank you for having me. Uh, it's a big dream project. Okay, we were looking at the entire northeast of India, where we are looking at the low-lying rainforest of the 7 states, where the only non-human ape species called the hoolock gibbon is found. Okay, this hoolock gibbon is a endangered species, and it is difficult to kind of even see them. So, given the current pressures of how development, agriculture, all of these are acting up, the species and the habitat they use, which is the low-lying rainforest of our country, uh, it becomes very critical that we find a solution so that these rainforests can be conserved. At the same time, the hoolock gibbon populations are stabilized and then recovered. Cool. So you have to look at the ecological functionalities for, because as humans we use the ecosystem services, and to name a few: clean water, pollination, and so on and so forth. So low-lying rainforests of India are critical, okay, from carbon capture perspective, from biodiversity perspective, from economic benefits perspective. Now, these hoolock gibbons are arboreal. Arboreal meaning they dwell in the canopies of these tall trees, 100+ feet tall trees, and they kind of represent the rainforest. So, because they're so much like humans with their eyes in the front, and they are also apes like us, it's easy to relate to them, right? They have very fixed family structures. Usually they pair for life, and then one child, and so it's also very relatable, and that makes them the perfect contender for representing a huge landscape, a vast area of rainforest. So if you can focus on them, you will be also able to focus on the rainforest and the benefits that we enjoy because of these. So northeast, hundreds of rivers come from there.
So, as a conservation project, what THT is doing is that you're not just focusing on one aspect. You are sort of doing this conservation project from the tech aspect, the genetic aspects. Could you give us a sense of how you're doing it, who are your partners, and what is the ultimate aim of this project as well?
Sure. So when I mean any challenge that you take up is multi-layered, right? And there is no silver bullet for it. So the primary challenge was that we don't even know how many hoolock gibbons are there, because you can't even see them. And this is, we're talking about dense rainforest, right? So the idea is to look at understanding these rainforests and the hoolock gibbons, of what, where the populations are, how many they are, to looking at how communities interact with the forest and the hoolock gibbons, to looking at how how do you meet the aspirations of a large population and the country's aspirations. So when you look at all of these, you there you have no choice but to look at different aspects. So research becomes one aspect, but research is difficult in these areas, and so you use technology. So there is a research component to it. So where you look at genetics and you look at habitat utilization, so on and so forth, where ecologists work on it. Technology is because you can't see them, but you can hear them. The technology is now, it's the stream is called as bioacoustics. It helps you kind of record sounds from the wild, and then we have indigenously in our organization developed models which will isolate log given vocalization, meaning their calls, they're talking, from the ambient forest sounds, and then that you can use for their presence absence, you can use them for occupancy, and then hopefully eventually to find out their populations. So that's the technology bit. Then there is a huge component of community engagement. How do you get communities? What do communities want, right? You don't want to parachute there and then tell them what to do. So there is a tremendous amount of traditional knowledge there. So how do you kind of develop community based models for it? Then how do you, because there are also some areas with the forest department, so you need to work with the local forest authorities and so on and so forth. So if you have to do all of this, it is wise to work with people who are already present there, right? They may be different organizations, individuals, but all of us have a shared purpose. So, as the Habitats Trust, what we've done is we've brought together all these stakeholders. So, be it NGOs like Aranyak or the conservation initiatives or the WCS, and of course, local communities from different parts of Nagaland to other states also, and each one is putting their best foot forward where their strength lies, and then they all come together so that the cumulative effect of all the good work that's happening can actually translate into some on ground positive action or desired outcomes, as you may want to call it.
As Mr. Chavan highlighted, for decades, these canopy dwelling primates have lived largely out of spotlight, overshadowed by conservation efforts focused on tigers, rhinos, and elephants. The conservation efforts aim to finally bring the hoolock gibbons into focus, revealing just how precarious their future has become. One of the biggest challenges for conservationists working on this project is that no one really knows the exact number of Western hoolock gibbons in India. India, which is home to nearly 80% of the world's population, has never conducted a comprehensive official census of the species. Now, the hoolock gibbons are uniquely vulnerable because of how they live. They spend nearly their entire lives in the forest canopy, rarely descending to the ground. They also live in small monogamous families, with their family setup usually comprising one male, one female, and their offsprings, and they reproduce slowly. Habitat loss from logging, infrastructure projects, and human expansion has fractured their world, while hunting for meat and occasional capture for pets has further thinned their numbers. Their loud, distinctive calls, meant to defend territory and strengthen pair bonds, have ironically made them easier targets. Now, conservationists and researchers are attempting something long overdue: a systematic effort to locate, count, and understand these apes before it's too late. Today, we are speaking to Santosh and Kishore, who are part of the Habitats Trust Tech for Conservation project, which has been undertaken for the conservation and population estimate for the Western hoolock gibbons in the Northeast India. Thank you so much for joining us today, Santosh and Kishore. I'm going to jump right to the questions. Santosh, you are heading the project of the Tech for Conservation for THT. Could you tell us a little bit about what this particular project is, and also, what this model is that you're developing?
Yeah. So, as the name goes, the Tech for Conservation focuses on developing technologies that can solve conservation problems. And at the program, we believe technology can speed up conservation and the research aspects of wildlife and biodiversity. In that regard, we are trying to innovate, customize, sometimes gap fill technologies that can lead us to these, solving these problems or the research questions. Yeah, so similar to that for the hula gibbons again, since we can't see them, which is not that easy in the dense canopies, we were relying on their vocalizations. And to understand the fundamental question about how many gibbons we have in India through like proper evidence. We were looking at how machine intelligence can be used to understand their vocalizations. In that regard, till now we have developed species classifier, which means in a long data set of vocalizations or the recordings, if you have to fetch out where the gibbons were vocalizing, the machine learning tool that we have developed can ease up that effort and identify the time durations where the gibbons were active within a given recording. While that was done, we were also understanding their characteristics, call characteristics, and now we are attempting to see if we can identify individual gibbons that can help us reduce their population.
uh, what is our ultimate aim through this model development? Because it's not just population estimation that we're trying to do. If you look at the project on the whole, we are also studying the genetics of it. Like you said, that through individual signatures, we are trying to identify what I mean, how many gibbons are present in a certain like a smaller pool, for instance. So I mean, once this model is developed, once this project is wrapped, uh, what is the ultimate aim that we aim to achieve for the conservation of the western hoolock gibbons? And I also wanted to ask specifically that I know this model is sort of tailor made for the western hoolock gibbons, but can this be tweaked and used for the estimation of other similar species which might operate in a similar fashion like the western hoolock gibbons are?
Okay, we'll probably I'll answer the second question first, and then we'll also touch upon the previous question. So yeah, I mean these the approach that we also took is a little bit more flexible to apply it for other species as well. There is an approach in deep learning called transfer learning, which where we can use the already trained weights on the newer data, and any species can be sort of complemented with its own data and sort of tailor made for a specific purpose. Either it's a binary classifier or a multi-class classifier where multiple species of uh, any targeted individuals can be species can be sort of classified. So that is possible through this approach. One is that, and other thing is on a whole project itself. I believe all these processes and approaches will kind of dovetail into larger aspect of conserving uh, hoolock gibbons, as well as they complement the local stakeholders as well as the rainforest, low-lying rainforest itself. So through these technological, what do you say, uh, tools which catalyze the larger work, and also help these approaches to sort of democratize for other organizations to use, and at the in entirety the species and also the habitats are focused, and sort of policies are made to protect them.
Yeah. So just to add on to that, Soumya, as Kishore said, we kept it very modular, and be it the acoustics device or the models and the drone based models as well. What we intend to do is like more framework based that can be replicated in other areas. That's scalability we keep in mind. Having said that, with machine intelligence or I mean artificial intelligence projects, even when we say there is a transfer learning thing, the amount of local context that need to be built onto a particular species is quite taxing. That we underwent in the last 2 years. Though we took an existing framework, it took a lot of time for us to customize it for a given species. Having said that, it is still modular, nevertheless. And then, if you see at the multiple things we are trying to use in this context, it is not just for population, as you rightly said. And a lot of stakeholders and a lot of partners are already part of it. It's a larger given project that TST like ambitiously took up, and in the pursuit, we are also trying to conserve the low-lying rainforests of Northeast. And what we are right now doing is assisting through technological tools in collecting data. So be it the drones, be it the acoustic devices, what we are trying to understand is presence of gibbons, like that's occupancy. That's a beginning point. And then once we do this occupancy thing at a scale, then we can overlay it with multiple like ecological and environmental parameters and do the prioritization where their habitat is more critical to conserve. And then comes something called monitoring. Identified prioritized patches need to be monitored regularly, and once we reach that stage, then probably we get into something called management. These are the sequential or incremental steps we take in ecological and landscape level projects. So from occupancy, we kind of reach the monitoring in in several years, and in that process, probably we might need to add more technological tools if the need arises. And beyond monitoring, during the management again, if you remember the hardware that Kishore demoed, the sonic file that we are developing, that helps us see the direction from which calls are coming. So that can be used for managing the landscape much better. If not the gibbon calls, the threats and other things that might affect it. So in that regard, like we are trying to solve and fix some of these gaps and the problems using technological tools. Need not just be the technological tools, but with other aspects of other programs within the THT are also part of it. Having said that, it's a much broader one than just looking at the population and numbers.
But the story isn't only about technology or numbers. In several parts of Northeast India, local communities are emerging as the gibbon's strongest allies, protecting forest patches, reporting sightings, and in some cases, treating the apes as extended family rather than wildlife to be exploited. Conservationists argue that without this local stewardship, no amount of scientific intervention will be enough. Without accurate data, hoolock gibbons remain invisible in policy decisions, funding priorities, and land use planning. Counting the hoolock gibbon, conservationists say, is not just a scientific exercise. It may be the last chance to make sure the loud calls of the gibbons do not disappear forever. I'm Soumya Pillai, and this was The Print.